Our guest now is Dondi Dancy, and she is based in California. So she is 2 hours behind me and 3 hours behind Rhonda. So what time? So there is 6 o'clock where you are, right, Dondi? Oh, you need to
I'm
unmute.
sorry. It
That's correct. It is 6 p.m. Good evening.
yes,
Good
and it's
evening.
9 o'clock here.
Woo!
Hey,
Well,
Miss
I
Gwen.
know how
Hi,
to
Dr. Rhonda.
huh?
Come on, Dr. Rhonda. You got this. You
I
got
got
this.
it. It'll be all right.
You got this. Come on, Dr. Rhonda. Hey, Miss Gwen.
I am great. How are you?
I'm good. How are you both this evening?
We are.
Wonderful. It's good to see you. I love how you're all hyped up at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's so late over
I've been looking forward to this all day. I told my kid, make sure you let me know it's 5:45 so I can be on time. Because I know you ladies are very prompt.
That,
Very prompt.
there.
no,
Gwen keeps me
no.
straight.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
are. Because one thing that I will not do is have this show be on any time other than just the regular time. I
Okay.
want to say it will start on time, it will end on time. It will go on time. It just I just, I treat it like if you're watching television and even like if you're watching the news or something like that, at the top when the hour is up, it'll cut them off because
That
the
is
other
true.
show
That's
is
true.
starting at the time it's supposed to start. So I treat
That's
it the same way. It is
Have you
when
ever watched an awards program and they start talking fast because somebody's counting them
yeah,
down? You can't see them on camera, but they're like
right,
10, 9.
right, right. Wrap it up.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. As it, because people, I respect the time of our viewers and the time of our guests. And so I want the show, and I want the show to be professional. We've always done this show, and it's always been professional. Our guests who've been on the show will send me emails telling me that they appreciate our professionalism. And so
I do also.
we get the feedback from them. So, Dondi, you represent Hush Harbor Literary Club,
Yes, ma'am. That
and
is
we're going to talk
my
about that first. And then you're
okay.
also a writer. So, toward the end, we're going to talk about you as a writer as well.
Okay, thank you. But yes, I am, and I probably should. I do represent the book club. It is my book club with my big brother. So it's kind of a joint effort. We are 14 and a half years apart. So we didn't literally grow up together.
Oh,
I do vaguely remember him living at home. It seems like to me it was like 2 days that he lived there, but he swears it was about 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I don't remember it that way. But it was a way for us to actually bond and to kind of get to know one another beyond knowing we are siblings. We don't know one another on a true granular level like most siblings do
yeah.
because he's so much older than I am. And he was already raising his family when I was a little kid in school. So I don't have like, that's my big brother. I know I can go to him if I need anything, but there's that age gap, that generation gap, and I wanted to lessen that. So the book club was my way of doing it.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard a
Yes.
story like that before related to a book club. And that's
Yes.
really interesting. So where'd the name Hush Harbor come from?
Well, we debated on what the name should be, and he's the older brother. And he came up with something that I was like, we're not doing that. We are simply not going to do that. And then we were talking about it, and he was doing some volunteer work with his church. And his minister overheard us talking and said, if you all start a book club, I will donate the church Zoom line. And so I said, well, we should probably have a name that kind of aligns with church without it being the church book club. And so I came up with Hush Harbor because one, we are African American. We are members of the diaspora. And honestly, when we were enslaved, that is how we got together and communicated. We didn't have book clubs. We had a sense of church, even when they did not want us to worship or have religious services. We went into the hush harbor, and that's where we discussed our personal business, who was going to escape, who had escaped, who we knew made it up north safely, who was pregnant 7 plantations over, who was sneaking out to go visit whomever 2 plantations over. That was our internet. And so I thought, this is going to be our internet. Let's name it Hush Harbor Book Club. And he thought, okay, I can do that. I can agree with that because it kind of aligns with church and community and disseminating information. So
Okay, well, that's an
I
amazing.
love the thought that you put into that name. This wasn't just something that you pulled out of the sky.
no, ma'am. No, I am very much like the two of you. You all are very time sensitive. And that tells me that you all don't do anything without actually giving it a lot of thought. There has to be a lot of pros and cons weighed out. And I have to believe that neither one of you will put your name behind anything if you're not going to give it 100% of your effort. Or if you feel upfront that this is just not going to be beneficial to me having my name on it. And I wanted to do it right. I mean, if we're going to do this, let's do it properly.
Yes.
And let's just do this right. Let's start off the right way so that we can end the right way.
Absolutely.
And that was my concern.
Okay, see, I was thinking Hush Harbor, you know how California has a whole lot of little nooks and crannies and towns and
And lagoon
places and stuff. And so I thought it was a name of a little seaside town in California.
No, no. Well, I guess in my head as a writer, that could be a seaside town. Thanks for that idea. Yeah, thanks for that.
So you and your brother started, and you have, how many members do you have now?
We have a total of close to 300. They are located pretty much around the world. And that is because we started off, we did put a lot of thought into this. We wanted it to be cost efficient for everyone. And because the church donated the Zoom line, and my brother's church honestly has an aged population, the possibility of his members having money available to purchase books every month to participate in the book club was slim to none. So I came up with the idea, instead of doing copyright books where we would have to purchase books or they would have to be available in the library, let's read books. Let's start off with books that are copyleft. So anything where the copyright had already lapsed and was available. So the very first book we read was Our Need. So that's how we started. And because of that, we started with a book, the first book written by a Black woman in the United States. And word of mouth, it just kind of like blew up from there. And how it spread outside of the United States, honestly, I think I think I told one person that lives in Belize who told someone that lived in England, and it just took off from there. But actively right now, lately, we've had as few as 2 people to show up for meetings, or as many as 15. And I think that that has a lot to do with the pandemic being quote unquote over. Whether it's over or not, I'm not going to argue the science. I'm not a scientist, I'm a paralegal. But when people were at home and isolated, they had a lot of hobbies and activities. Now that the world has opened up, their interests have changed, and that's okay. The people that are interested, they're dedicated. So we're available for those people that are dedicated and interested. And a lot of our members they're elderly and they're shut in, but they know how to use Zoom or they know how to use email. And we are just in a period right now, the holidays have just ended, people are traveling. So at some point, people will start coming again. But until then, I don't think we need to harass people and demand that they show up. You know, they will. I
Yeah,
have faith.
you end up a lot of times with your core group anyway, in just about
Mhm.
every book club. You might start off with more people than you end up with, but that core group normally will stick with it for a long time.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, the book club, well, the Kush City Book Club is 20, what year are we in? 23 years old.
That's
And
impressive.
yeah,
Very.
and then the Fallbrook Book Club, I want to say it's 10. My church's book club that I'm in, I think it's about 10 years old.
Yeah, that's impressive also. We're only 3 years old, so we're still like a little toddler book club. And we read, we read scripts sometimes. So sometimes we'll do a script and a movie, because if the
Oh,
movie has been released, then the script will be available publicly. So
That's,
we'll
I
do
haven't
that.
heard of a book club reading a script before. That's
well,
interesting.
she's in California too.
Well, that's true. We have access to a lot of them.
No, well, we have to do things to keep it interesting. So
Mhm.
we're already struggling with keeping people zooming in. So we have to come up with ideas, something different. And sometimes those different ideas work out really well. And other times we have very good intentions and it becomes maybe a little too much. We did the movie and the script Fruitvale Station, and that's one to this day I admitted to my brother. I sincerely apologized to him. I wish that I had not selected that. Or if I had selected it, I wish that we would have broke out, like the men go into one Zoom room and the women go into another, because every man on the Zoom had an instance with the police, including my brother, something that I did not know about. And I did not feel like I was equipped as a Black woman to even help them.
It was triggering.
It
Yeah.
was very triggering.
Mhm.
And I felt guilty because maybe they were not ready to discuss that,
Yeah.
especially with someone like, you don't have a solution. You can't help us feel better. So I just think that was great intentions, but it kind of backfired. It wasn't the outcome I had hoped it would be.
Right.
My brother said he felt it was very cathartic, and it probably was. And it probably would have been better if the women were not in the room. I think they would have discussed a lot more, and they probably would have resolved more if we were not in the room.
That's really good insight because that was a very triggering movie. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah,
so
it
I'm
was.
quite sure that the book was even more triggering because it went into so much more detail that the movie couldn't touch.
And there are other things like we always try to pull out additional information. So I actually pulled the California statute. I pulled the newspaper reports and like sent them out to people. And then it was very disturbing to learn that the gentleman that took that young man's life, first of all, that happened here in Northern California. They relocated that case down to Southern California. He was sentenced, I think, to whatever, but he only did something like 14 months.
Mm.
And everything that they brought up about that young man was supposed to have been sealed in his juvenile record.
Mhm. Yeah, the
And
thing about them bringing up somebody's past when they are the victim of a crime is
mm,
really irrelevant because the person who's perpetrating the crime against them doesn't know their
yes,
history at all. So it's not a factor in what they did. What they
exactly.
did was a spur of the moment or emotional. You were fearing for your life, whatever they normally say, but they don't know the person's history. So it's irrelevant to the
Mm.
situation. Now they really
Well,
bring that up to taint the jury. That's why they bring it up.
And also, it's really unfortunate and it's sad to learn that had people not been on that train, the incident he had nothing to do with, for even why the police were called. He had nothing to do with that. But if people would not have pulled out their cell phones, if it were not for the millennials, that man would have gotten away with that.
Yeah.
And to think that if he was that angered by nothing, are we to believe that that was the first time it happened?
Right.
Correct.
And you are to protect and to serve.
Yeah.
In this country where in most instances you can be 18 and become a policeman.
Well, yeah, I don't think you have to have a college degree unless
You
you're
don't.
probably when you're moving up the ladder, if you're trying to be the
Right.
lieutenant or
But
detective.
isn't that ironic that you could be 18, the most emotional period of your life,
Yes.
and they'll give you a gun, but you cannot buy a beer if you had a hard day at work, the same 18-year-old.
Same thing with the military. You can be 18 and
Yeah.
join the military, but not old enough to drink.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is very true. So things like that, we talk about the books, but we also talk about things like that. And that's one of the great things about the book club, is that it always trends into something different. We may talk about politics. We may talk about current events. We may talk about contemporary events, which I try to keep my brother away from because he gets he is so opinionated about a lot of things he should not have an opinion on. And it is to protect him. Like, I don't want people to really know you were that goofy. Be quiet. But it is very interesting, and it's a learning experience. And I think that, again, this is our form of the internet. When we didn't have the internet and we didn't have Zoom, we sat down on our stoop on the front porch and we talked to one another. And that's how we learned, and that's how we communicated information. Because there was a period in this country where a lot of people didn't have telephones. And it was not that long ago.
Right.
We wrote letters.
Yeah.
We don't do that type of stuff any longer. So this is our solution. And with the majority of our members being older, and not necessarily sick or shut in, but they don't really get out a lot. I think they really enjoy it. It's a form of stimulation, mental stimulation. They get a big kick out of the extra information that I send to them. So they'll send stuff back to me, or they'll send back a suggestion like, "Oh, you need to check this out on PBS." So so it's become like one huge master class. And I think with COVID, in all minority communities, we lost a lot with people dying from COVID, and with, especially in the Black community, we were not allowed to grieve the way we normally grieve. So there are pockets of intelligence and information that are gone that we're not going to recoup. So this is sort of our way of answering that. And it's been marginally effective. But it is what it is. We're going to keep doing it because we like doing it. And I think for the most part, I have enjoyed this 3 years of getting to know my brother better. But I still needle him. I still give him a hard time, y'all. I'm just gonna that's what a little sister does.
Yep, that's your job. That's your job.
It is.
But I do think that's the most beautiful part of it, that all of this was a bridge to just connecting and reconnecting with your brother.
Yes. And I have another older brother that's older than him, that's 16 years older than me. And my sister is 18 years older than me. She lives down in Houston with Gwen, and she's also a Gwen. For whatever reason, they don't ever join or Zoom in, but they'll read the books and they'll like email us what they want us to say to people. Well,
Oh,
I've been
you're the
saying lately, like,
spokespeople.
I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm not doing that. Like, you can talk. I'm not doing that. You can Zoom in if just to say what you have to say and drop off the Zoom line. Like, I'm not gonna talk. It
Do you
should be a
have
family affair.
Dondi, do you have any younger siblings, or were you
No,
okay?
I am the youngest. I'm
Okay, so you were like
a change in life, baby.
okay, all right. They weren't
Yes.
expecting to be able to get pregnant, and boom, there
No.
comes Dondi.
Don't even scare me like that, because see, I'm not trying to have a change of life baby.
Well, that is to tell you that I don't buy that logic that you can't have children later, because my mother was 48 and my dad was 55, almost 56. So it can happen.
It
You
can't.
might not be so happy, but it can happen.
Yeah, you probably don't have the same energy, not for
A
not for the
toddler.
entire time, you know.
No,
But
no.
yeah, people make things work.
That's true. They do.
Now, how
They
do you
do.
keep up with the 300 people? Do you have a page on, or do you have a Facebook page, or do you
We
send?
used to have a website, but then that just got to be too much to maintain. And over
Okay.
the pandemic, I was doing like a weekly newsletter, and I was sending out all kind of stuff like links to free workshops and things like that, just lots and lots of information. And if you two would like, I still have all the newsletters. I can give you all access to the drive I could created, so you can have them and just look through them. It's a ton of stuff in them. But my brother doesn't help. So that all falls on me. And I had to draw the line somewhere like, okay, Curtis, like, you can't pick a book, you can't keep a note, you can't do anything. And he'll say what he always says, but you do such a good job. So now it is email. I will send out an email. This is the book we are reading. This is the date. This is the time. This is the Zoom link. You
Okay.
all are adults. I'm going to trust that you can do this. And then lately, I've been, because I'm using Google Mail, I've been putting stuff on my calendar and then pinging people on their calendar. So if they are going to come, they can say, yes, they're coming, or no, they're not. But it gets to be a lot to try to keep up with people. And I was good with trying to keep up with people and constantly disseminating information until people got the post-COVID, attitude of, I may or may not come. I'm going to miss 7 months in a row. I'm going to miss a whole year. It's like, okay, what am I doing? I'm creating work for myself. So I need a break. And I had to back off of that because, again, as you mentioned, Gwen, there's the core group. And I don't have to tell them anything. They will call me. When is book club? What's the name of that book again? So, that's where I'm at. The core group, they're going to continue.
Okay,
And
do
that's
you
what you
meet
have
every
to get
month?
on, because if you start running after the people who aren't showing dedication, you're going to continue to run after them because you
Yes.
just empowered them to keep doing what they're doing.
Yes. Again, and we started off saying, start things off the way that they're going to be. And I just cannot keep doing that. I can't. I
So do
have
you
a lot
all
of,
meet every month, Dondi?
we started out once a month, and now we're at once every 6 to 8 weeks because people are busy and have other things to do. And then honestly, the 6 to 8 weeks works better for me because I accepted a cohort position with a year-long publishing program. And I need my extra time now to get my writing done and make sure I am getting writing done. So,
Okay, so that's a good segue to you as a writer. And you had mentioned that there are other writers in your book club, but you have your latest book is called Lilies Bloom, Lies Fester.
Yes, ma'am. That is the name of it. I can show you the cover.
Yeah, show us the cover and tell us what, give us a, okay, you need to put it closer to you, or yeah, there it is
Put
right
it close to you like
there.
this.
Right there.
There we go.
Right
There we
there.
go.
Okay. So what is the book? What genre is it and what is it about?
Okay, this book is contemporary, and I'm going to say contemporary because it's about Black women, chick lit. And it's
Oh,
because it's about four sisters, and the book itself is about the dynamic of family secrets and how one secret within the same family destroys because every individual has their own version of the truth of that event. And every individual is operating in their own truth. And because of that, all families are dysfunctional, because all families have some form of a family secret. Some
right.
of them are just more heinous, others are just kind of innocent, but in the end, they can destroy, and they can destroy a person's perception of who they are or what they know about themselves. So that's what the book is ultimately about. And it's about four sisters. And actually, one sister goes home to visit because the oldest sister is unwell. And that's when the truth of the family secret comes out.
Okay. Well,
The younger sister goes home.
that sounds intriguing. Now, is this your first
Like a
book?
lot of things.
It is. This is my first book. I, to be honest, I didn't intend to write a book. I intended to write a short story, and I actually hand wrote it, or what I thought was a long form short story. I hand wrote it.
Oh, okay.
And then about a month after I finished writing it, I decided, okay, I'm going to type it out. And I started typing it. And I think about the 17th handwritten page, it dawned on me like, this is a book. The word count, this is a book. And then I was sitting there saying to myself, you have wrote a book. Like, how amazing is this? You have wrote a book. And then after I typed it out and kind of did a rough edit, I asked a friend of mine who used to be an editor with Essence Magazine to read it, not to edit it, just to read it. Like, tell me, is this really good? And so she read it and she called me up and said, what are you going to do with that? And then I said, what do you mean? She was like, no, really, what are you going to do with it? And then I said, I don't know. She was like, think about adding a little bit more to it. And then do some open reading, see what kind of feel you get from other people. And I started doing that, and the reaction I was getting was so affirming. I was like, oh my God, I wrote a book. And then I started, like,
I'm just loving the enthusiasm behind what you're saying. That, I mean, I think after a while, when we've been in the industry for a while, we think, sometimes we can get a little bit
Jaded.
on ourselves. Yeah, we like, okay, yeah, I wrote a book. Y'all need to buy it. But you had the most pure reaction. Oh my God, I wrote a book. And I think that sometimes, I think that's the attitude a lot of us need to have, that we're doing something that a lot of people don't have the nerve to do, and you did it. And
that's the thing.
Yeah. And
Is
people,
that it was
people
like suddenly it's like, okay, why did I not think I could do this? And then I realized, like, okay, it's how they teach us to write in school. They teach us to write using another person's experience. So if you don't experience that, you automatically think that you're wrong, that you don't know what you're doing. And then I started saying, wait a minute, hold up. This is all a game. Like, all of this is a game. Just the publishing, everything. We could do a lot of things if we just say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. And after that, after I did a few readings and then a few other edits. I paid someone to do an edit. And then I did another, I think 2 more rewrites. And then I started toying with submitting it, and I submitted it, I think, to 2 different small presses. And one of them was saying, well, you should add more to it, which I didn't agree with because I thought that's just adding like word count. It's not adding to the story. And then the other one was saying,
like that too, where it's an add to the word count, but it doesn't add to the story. Some books
yeah, and then the other one was saying it's a very good story, but it's just very it doesn't appeal to a wide enough audience. And so then I started doing my research, and I'm like, hold up, there's 34 million Black people in the United States. Like, wait, I'm like, they don't have an audience. Like, I can get out here and find them. And then after that, I met a guy, Victor McLaughlin, who is an author.
Yeah.
And Victor said something like, I think he's just blatantly said, you know what, the advantage to self-publishing is you're going to learn everything you need to know. So he's like, even if you get a contract with a major publisher, you don't know what you don't know. And then that just like clicked, like, okay, he's right. And then when I started doing the research, and I'm like, oh my God, this is too easy. Like, they have literally made us think that this is rocket freaking science, and it isn't. And once I figured it out, that's when I started telling other people, like, hey, you have a voice, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And some people will listen and other people won't. And the people that will listen, you know, it's just, you can see, it's interesting how it's like with me, a natural progression. You go from journaling to writing a poem to writing a story to writing a book.
Into the crack, or we slip into the trap, I should say, of feeling like we have to run after the people who aren't listening, and we neglect the people who are. So concentrate on the people who are listening, and eventually the people who are not listening are going to wonder what's going on over here. Maybe I should listen and see what's going on. And then that's how you get them.
Yes.
Well, we're at the end of our time. We actually passed our time.
Oh, we're way at the end of our time. I'm glad you said something.
I'm sorry, ladies. I'm going to send y'all my book. I'm going to send y'all the book in e-version. Okay. I don't have your email, Dr. Rhonda, so I'm going to send Miss Gwen a copy, and Gwen, you send Rhonda a copy.
We'll take care of it. And Dondi, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And also thank you and your club for being the first book club to read my new book. I appreciate it.
And thank you for coming to our meeting. That was so fun. We had a great time. Brandy was so tickled. She was so tickled.
It was great. So thank you again, and have a great night.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.